It's another episode. What I want you to do first, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. Want to get those subscribers up, get this content out. I don't know where you are, but actually a thunderstorm is coming in my area. So hopefully nothing happens that's going to be an interruption or anything like that. Now, so what are we going to be talking about today? Hopefully you find it interesting and helpful in this episode that I'm dealing with today. And without further ado, what I want to talk about today is split second decisions, use of force under pressure. Split second decisions, use of force under pressure. Now, in a previous episode, we did talk about use of force and talked about the force continuum that police officers go by, depending upon the particular department. And so that's what I want to focus on: split second decisions. Has there ever been a time in your life that you had to make a split second decision? Whatever profession you're in, you had to make that decision right then. There was no thinking about it. I don't care if you're working in a warehouse. I don't care if you're working in an office or whatever. Let's just say somebody's life might have been in danger. Let's just say a decision had to be made and there was not a supervisor around, and you had to make that split second decision. Well, in law enforcement, we encounter that on a daily basis, basically. Not to the point where deadly force is all the time, but in a lot of instances it is, but also just in our daily work. Sometimes we do have to make a split second decision. So that's what I want to kind of cover today, and just keep that on your mind. Have you ever had to make a split second decision, and how did that turn out for you? Was it a good result? Was it a bad result? Was it something that you can learn from? And the next time something comes up, your training and whatever profession that you're in kind of kicks in. Well, it's the same thing with law enforcement. The training that we go through is going to kick in. So I just want to welcome you back to Park's Place, where real talk meets real experience from the front line. Now, this is what I want to do. I want you guys to think about something. Let's just say you're police officers and you're in a car and you're driving through a real quiet neighborhood, and a call comes over radio, shots fired, and you're close by. 2 minutes later, you're facing a man with a weapon who's not obeying your commands. What do? You're driving through this quiet neighborhood, you hear shots fired. Now you encounter the suspect, and he's not listening to what you're saying. He's not cooperating with your loud verbal commands. Put the gun down, put your hands up. He's not responding. What do? What are you going to do? So today we're going to talk about the milliseconds that separate life from death, heroism from headlines. So you guys know who I am. I'm Parker, and my motto is pull up and let's talk about it. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about this and see what really happens when an officer makes a split second decision under pressure. Today's topic, it can be controversial, it can be emotional, and it can be misunderstood. The use of force under pressure is something that I don't wish on my worst enemy, because you're ultimately holding someone's life in your hand if it's a deadly force situation. And what also we want to cover, what does decision making look like in real time? In real time, not in the courtroom, not in the media, but on the streets. What does that look like? And so what is the anatomy of a split second decision? Officers involved in high risk stops, domestic calls, ambushes. I've been in high risk police stops, hot chases, car chases, and then sometimes it ends up in a foot chase. The person wrecks out or they intentionally jump out of the vehicle. Now everything is going through your mind. All of the training that you received is going through your mind all at once. You're playing everything through your head. What am I going to do if this person does this? What if they display a weapon? What am I going to do? All this is going on. If you're in a car chase, all that's going on. before the person starts running or they stop. You have to do a felony stop. All that stuff is going on in your mind. What are you going to do? Remember what I said a few minutes ago. You're in a quiet neighborhood. A shots fired call comes out. You're facing this suspect now 2 minutes after the call comes out. They have a gun. You have a gun. What are you going to do? Have you thought about that? What are you going to do? He's not obeying your commands. What are you going to do? And it's going to be that quick. It's going to be that much pressure on you. What if it ends up being a cell phone? Now, what are you going to do? How is it going to play out? So domestic calls, those are some of the worst where deadly force comes in, because I've known officers, I've seen stuff where they're just walking up to the house and shots ring out and officers have been ambushed. So anything that you do can end up or become a deadly force situation. Now, before we move on, I kind of want to tell you about an incident that I had. It wasn't a shooting. It could have ended up very bad. It could end up very bad. When I was in the gang unit, some of you, if you guys watching this, you're from the Dallas area, you probably remember the club called DMX. I was working this as an off-duty gig, and the club was over. People were leaving, and if you know, this place gets crowded. And we have to clear different parking lots. Normally, I work the front of the club, and this particular night, we were all trying to get everybody out, so we were walking the parking lot. So I'm at the back of the park, one of the parking lots where the club is at, and this guy flags me down. He said, "Hey, man, these guys back here, they were harassing him or trying to fight him," something to that effect. So me and this guy are literally just walking in the parking lot, going back toward the front of the club. And I asked the gentleman, I said, "Well, hey, where are they at?" He said, "I don't know. They're back here." I said, "Well, did they do anything?" He said, "No, but they were trying to fight him." And you know, he's giving me his story, what was going on. And I asked him, where was he parked? He was parked way across the street. And I asked him, I said, "Well, why are you way back here and your car is way on the other side?" I think he was trying to talk to some females or something like that. So him and I just literally walking and having a conversation. So as we're approaching the front of the club, you know, cars are leaving. Some are trying to come back in. So, and cars are passing us as we're walking. Like I said, we're in a big parking lot. So as we're walking, he's to my left and we're walking. And like I said, cars are leaving the parking lot and stuff like that. And so as we're walking, he said, "There you go, right there, man. That's them." I was like, "What are they doing? They're not doing anything. They're driving off." And so as we're talking, and I'm looking at the car because he's pointing the car out to me, I observed the passenger side window. We're on the passenger side of the vehicle. The passenger side passes us, rather. And the front passenger window comes down. And as it's coming down, the best way I can describe it is if I'm in a passenger seat, the guy reaches out the window like this with a gun. And as the window comes down, all I see is the barrel of the gun. And next thing I know, all of this, what I'm going to say, all of this happened in a matter of seconds. And it seemed like everything was done in one motion. So as soon as I see the gun, I yell "gun," so all the other officers can, you know, come to the vehicle. So I swoop this guy with my left arm back. I'm going for my weapon at the same time, and I'm drawing down on the passenger window. And I don't know if this guy's going to shoot, but I'm not going to wait for him to shoot because I'm getting ready to shoot at the passenger window because the gun is there. So I'm trying to make sure that the civilian is safe because I move him behind me and I'm yelling "gun," and I'm about to pull the trigger. And then the rear passenger window is now in my sights. I can't take the shot because the threat is at that front. And then I didn't want to aim more because the car was moving and now I could hit another officer or I could hit another bystander. So that's why I yell "gun." And actually that's what we're supposed to do. And I'm making sure that the guy that was walking with me is safe and got him out of the way. So, I mean, my fingers on the trigger, I'm taking the slack out of the guard trigger. And luckily they got there quick. And like I said, I didn't have a good shot, so I did not take the shot because now my sights is on the rear passenger window because the car was moving. And so everybody swarmed the car, got everybody out. Sure enough, the guy had the gun. We arrested him. And he said the passenger that pointed the gun out the window said he didn't see me. I was like, how did you not see me? And I have a full police uniform on. There's probably about 8 or 9 of us standing in front of the club. And once we got him in handcuffs, you talking about somebody that was severely pissed. That was me. Because I told this guy, I said, man, I could have killed you easily. And I told him that would have bothered me because, you know, you don't want to take someone's life. But, you know, now I'm protecting my life and I'm protecting the civilian's life who has no protective gear on whatsoever. But you're going to roll down this car window and just randomly start shooting. So now not only are you putting me at risk, but any other civilians that were behind me at risk because the club was just letting out. So I had a few seconds to make that decision. Now, if I would have discharged my weapon, would I have been justified? Yes, I would have. I've been totally justified had I fired that weapon. And if I would have killed that guy, guess what? Yeah, I'm justified in doing that. But now I have to live with this for the rest of my life, something that could have been avoided or really wasn't even necessary. So if I wasn't there, they probably would have shot this guy, you know, in the back part of the parking lot. I mean, he's willing to do it right there in front of me. So now the lethal encounter, it unfolds within 3 to 5 seconds. 3 to 5 seconds. That's not a lot of time. And there's a lot of things going through someone's mind when this is happening. Just a lot of the stuff that goes on in the media with police shootings and things of that nature. Not all civilians, public, media, whatever, they don't all just, you know, dog out the police officers or whatever. But it's like, what do you do? You know, they want somebody to blame. You know, well, they should have known better. They should have this, they should have that. And, you know, I have my thoughts on that as far as, you know, certain things. And as we're going through this, what is the physiological response of the officer? Probably gonna have tunnel vision. You're probably gonna have auditory exclusion and adrenaline dump. Now, the auditory exclusion is the brain is gonna tune out sounds around you. So if you've ever heard, and I've heard this expression too, and I've never experienced it until the situation I just told you about, when everything slows down. And it could be a loud noise, but everything is just like, it's that situation. That's the only noise that you can hear. And when I yell gun, I heard nothing of people coming in. If they said something, I don't remember them saying it because I'm so tuned in. My brain was blocking out all of the noise. And you have adrenaline dump. Basically what that is, your adrenaline gets, you know, so pumped up. And that's why, and I'm not going to lie, I dug into this guy's butt. I mean, I was going at him because I was that upset with him that I could have killed this guy. And so that was part of the adrenaline dump. It's like I had to get that adrenaline dump out. And so now I'm basically scolding him like he's my child because I could have took this man's life. And so that's part of it. And then not only that, you know, let's just say, I'll keep using me as an example. Let's just say if I did had to discharge my weapon and this guy ended up being deceased because of this situation. Now, would I have been cleared? You know, I'm thinking, yes, probably about 100% I would have been cleared. But in the meantime, there's going to be legal things that I have to deal with and department policies. You're going to have, you know, the whole department's going to be looking at this and media is going to be looking at it. So it's that side of it as well. Now, and there's other things that, you know, we deal with also as officers that you have just the 3 to 5 seconds. And luckily, or not luckily, you know, I went through Dallas PD's police academy. The training that we had was bar none. I mean, the training was great and it prepared us for the street and prepared me for an instance like that. So what do officers go through in the academy? I can only speak for the academy that I went through. I don't know what any other academy teaches around the nation or other type of academies. We go through like simulator training and also scenario-based type training. You guys may know what simulator is. Basically, it's like a big old TV screen, and they play a video, and it's interacting. And if you yell out commands or whatever, they'll respond to your commands. And then there's some instances where you're going to discharge your weapon. Of course, it's not, in the simulator, you're not discharging your actual weapon, but they have a simulated type gun. And then you have the scenario-based type training where you go to a training facility. You may have simunition rounds where, you're going to get hit, and trust me, it's going to feel like a real round hits you. You're going to be faced with, hey, they're going to give you the scenario. Hey, this is what you have. You're responding to a family violence call. You're going to hear yelling. Go in there, respond. So you're going to respond to that situation in a training environment. And, like we call them shoot houses, then it's like, you're either going to de-escalate the situation. It may be a thing where it gets shots right off the bat. You may be walking up to the house, and the simulation may be, you may hear the gunshots coming from inside the house, and then you have to respond. So they put you in real life situations to prepare you as best as can for these type of situations. Then we also have a shoot, don't shoot type training. Do you think it's effective, or do you think it's outdated? That's something I want to put a question out there to you guys. So it's like a shoot, don't shoot. So they put you into scenarios. Then it's like, hey, do you shoot or do you don't shoot? Basically, it may be a silhouette type thing. Like if you're qualifying, and something may turn, it may be a man with a gun, or it may turn and be a man with a cell phone. And did you decide to shoot, or did you not decide to shoot? And also policies, we always, every time I put out a video, it always comes back to policies, police policies. How are they shaped in a respective department? Duty to intervene, proportional force, use of force, like the use of force continuum that I was saying. So sometimes instances make departments change either the use of force continuum or the policies that they have into effect. And that's not a bad thing. Let's just say that somebody does something and the policy just doesn't cover it. And now you have a instance where, hey, we need to make this a policy. So they're going to write up something to say, hey, now this is part of our policy because of this situation that just happened now. And so that's how some departments are handling those things. And then it also goes back to what I was saying a few minutes ago. It's how officers are trained, multiple inputs under stress. I mean, it's easy to go through just walk through type training. But when you're put under stress, when you're put in a car, you're told, hey, drive up here, and it's all in a training environment. You get out of the car, do A, B, C, and D, and then you respond to this. You may be in a car in some training, in a training environment, and then you hear the gunshots outside of the car, then you have to respond. Now you're running a little bit. Now all of this stuff is going on, then somebody pops out somewhere with a weapon. What are you going to do? Is it what type of weapon is it? Is it actually a weapon? So these are all the things that are going through officers' mind. You're always scanning someone's, at least I am anyway. I'm scanning the person's body. I'm looking to see what they're doing. If a person is fidgety, if they keep putting their hands in their pockets, if they're reaching behind them, I'm like, hey, keep your hands where I can see them. And I don't know if you guys ever experienced that, but my thing is now I'm on alert because what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you reaching for? Why do you keep putting your hands in your pocket? Why do you keep reaching back? Why do you keep looking all over the place like you're looking for something or like you're nervous? Now that's for to me as an officer, that was big thunder right there. I don't know if y'all heard that. But that's a big red flag for me. Now, so the training has a lot to do with it. Okay. Now here's some food for thought. You train for years, but in that moment, all you have is your instincts and muscle memory. You train for years, but in that moment, all you have is your instincts and muscle memory. I think we all know what instincts are. If you don't know, muscle memory is, for cops, it's like when you go to the range so much and all the training that you do, it's just automatic. You're reaching for your weapon, it's automatic. That's just like if you get on a bike, you're going to know what to do because you've ridden a bike before. It's muscle memory. You know, you get in your car, you don't really think about it. You get in the car, you lock the door, you start it up, and you put it in gear, reverse, neutral, or drive, and you do what you need to do. It's muscle memory because you've done it over and over again. Same concept in police work. When you do something over and over again, if you're always training, that's the muscle memory part that's going to come out, because it's been plenty of times where we're in an instance where somebody does have a weapon that my weapon is out, not I realize it, but it's out so quick because I'm just so used to training like that. And that's what kicks in, the training. And so we talked about some of the legal stuff. Now, what is the aftermath, the judgment and scrutiny that officers get in these milliseconds to make a life-changing decision for themselves and a possible suspect, a person that has a weapon? What is the aftermath and the judgment that we get? First of all, the role of body cams. You know, it's either clarity or oversimplification, because it's been times where, you know, just on small incidents where I'm typing up a report or a supplement to somebody else's report, and I'm just going off of memory. I'm typing up, just going off of memory. Okay, this is what I did. I did this. I did this. Then I go back to my body cam. I'm like, oh, I didn't remember doing that. So I have to add that in there. And so that's what the body camera comes into. It reminds us of what actually happened. You know, you may have done something and didn't realize it because everything is happening so quick. Now, and then what is another aftermath of judgment that we deal with? Well, you know, all know the saying, the Monday morning quarterback by the media and by the public. Now, what public, on the public, and sometimes the media too. I've seen comments on social media posts that, well, the officer should have done this. You know, if some person had a gun or something, or a knife, specifically a knife, well, they should have tased him, or they should have shot him in the leg, or they should have shot him in the arm and knocked the weapon out of his hand. Okay, y'all, this is not the movies. This is not the movies. The way we are trained, at least the way I was trained, what constitutes a deadly force encounter is someone has a knife or someone has a gun or something that can possibly kill you. Now, so my saying is, don't bring a knife to a gunfight. But that's a deadly force situation because someone can get to you quicker with the knife before you can get your weapon out of the holster. So remember that, you know, this is not TV. Whatever movies you watch, and, you know, and the cop shoots the person, shoots them in the leg, and they still have the gun in their hand, or they shoot, you know, it appears that they shoot the hand and then the gun flies out of their hand and it goes way over there. That's not real life. That is not real life. I see all those comments on Facebook, and it's like people have no idea what they're talking about. And we're not trained to shoot a gun out of somebody's hand. We are trained, or at least I was trained, to stop the threat. What does that mean? Well, if we tell someone to drop a weapon, if I tell you to drop the gun, drop the knife, we're good. We go up and we handcuff you, and you go deal with your legal situation. Now, let's just say someone's actually shooting. So if someone is shooting, then we're going to continue to shoot until that threat stops. So if somebody keeps shooting, we're going to continue to shoot until the threat stops. Once the threat stops, then we stop. It's that simple. It's not shooting a knife. It's not shooting a gun out of somebody's hand or aiming for the leg. We're trained to shoot center mass. Period. We're trained to shoot center mass, meaning here. I'm not trained to shoot somebody's arm if they have a gun in it. We're trained to shoot center mass. We're there to stop the threat. Once the threat stops, we stop. And I've seen comments where they should have tased him. That's not the time for a taser. Now, let me back up on that. Now, in certain situations like that, will someone have a taser out and someone have a lethal force, meaning a gun, out? Yes. but sometimes, hey, holster that taser, because now what if they do start shooting the suspect and you got the taser? You're gonna just react. You're gonna start pulling a trigger, but it's gonna be to the taser. So you need to holster that taser up and get to your weapon. So I just want to put that out there, and that's why I say the force continuum. And so I know the public doesn't know, but it's like we do go by a force continuum. And like I say, most of the comments that I do see when stuff happens is stuff that you see on TV or movies. And it's not like that. It's definitely not like that. Now, so the Monday morning quarterback, the media and the public is part of the aftermath. Now, the other part is you have internal affairs investigations. Sometimes you may have public integrity, you have lawsuits, and you have the trauma, meaning the officer has that part. The internal investigations, either the officer is going to be cleared or they're not going to be cleared. And if they're not cleared, then that will be handled in a court of law. Then there's lawsuits. So the family can file lawsuits. And I think we kind of touched on this on one of the episodes that I put out before. There's lawsuits. And I think I told you before, people that file the lawsuits against, they'll file against the city, the department, and the individual. And so, but if the officer's cleared, then I'm not gonna say there's nothing to worry about, because there's still that trauma that the officer deals with. That's just like with me when I almost had to shoot this guy. You can say that was some form of trauma, because I was really sitting there thinking, if I would take this guy's life, how am I going to deal with this? I just took a human life. Food for thought. It's easy to pause a video, but it's impossible to pause a moment. So what are you saying, Parker? This is what I'm saying. If you got the recorded thing on where you can record shows or whatever, or if you're watching the news, yeah, they can go back and pause. They'll play it and they'll pause it. See, the officer should have did this right here when this happened, or he should have done this. It's easy to pause that. You can't pause the actual moment. So you have to remember that. And I don't want to bring up stuff I talked about in other episodes, but you can't pause that moment. You can only, as an officer, you can only hope for the best and make sure that your training does kick in and that you're in a good situation, if you have to shoot or don't shoot. And so that's what you have to think about, not only the officer, but also the general public and the media as well. So what is the reform and the reality of a split-second decision? Are there new policies going to be implemented? Or do the restrictions help or do they hurt? And what I mean by that, let's just say there's something that is restricting officers in certain situations. Now, officers become hesitant. And I don't know if you guys believe me or not on this, but it's like those things go through your mind in what's going on. At least me, it does. Okay, I'm planning in my mind. Okay, if I do this, am I gonna end up in prison? Am I going to court over this? And so that's my thing is like, when I encounter someone and I ask you to do something, do it. It's that simple. Do it. Now, and let me stick a pin right there, because I literally just thought about something that kind of has something to do with this. I don't know what it is, but there's something going on in, I can just say, the Metroplex here. I don't know if it's going on in Dallas, but I've encountered it here where I work at now, where young teenagers that they're taking these BB guns, some look like rifles, and they're fake. And what they're doing is they're driving around and they're pointing these things at people. Even while driving down the freeway, you get in a little road rage or they just want to point it or whatever, but they're actually pointing these fake guns at people while they're driving. And there was one that happened the other day where I think it was at a swimming pool area somewhere, and they did that. Um, that is very dangerous, because, and this is my other saying: don't bring a fake gun to a real gunfight, because the people that have it, the people that's doing this, yeah, you know it's fake. But the other person in that car that you're pointing it at, or the person at this apartment complex that you pointed it at, they don't know that that thing is fake. Well, if somebody is carrying and they see that, and they return fire before you actually start shooting, well, you can't shoot because you don't have a real gun. But nobody's going to wait until you start shooting and then they're going to shoot back. As soon as you roll down that window and you stick that fake weapon out of the car, or if you display it while you're driving and you point at someone, the person next to you, and they have a real gun, that 9 times out of 10, you're going to get shot and you're probably going to get killed. So I don't know what's going on with that. And even with that, that person has a split second, 3 to 5 seconds to decide if they're going to shoot or not. And it's the same thing with police officers. And then when those people pull over, because I'm quite sure they're going to pull over because they're going to say, hey, well, they pointed a gun at me, so I had my gun. So I discharged my weapon at them because I'm thinking they're going to shoot me. And then we tell them, hey, it was a fake gun. How do you think that person's going to respond? And I'm going to have to let them know, hey, look, you're and just me, you're within your right, because you have no way of knowing if that's a fake gun or not. You know, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to stop, the action and say, hey, is that a real gun or is that a fake gun? So, and that's another thing, you have to be serious in what you're doing and be careful what you're doing. And what I mean, the bad guy, whatever you want to call them, or the people with the fake guns, you need to be careful with that. You may think it's funny, you may think it's a joke, but when somebody returns real bullets back at you, and then, your people, your relatives, they're going to be mad at the person that shot you. Well, they should have known it was a fake gun. No, your loved ones should have been doing what they were doing with that fake gun. Then this wouldn't have happened. And so I don't know what's going on with that, but that kind of reminded me of the split second decision, because if you have a concealed handgun license to carry and someone does that, to me, you're within your right to do that, because you don't know if that gun is real or not. But now you're going through that, some of the things I just talked about, where the split second decision. Now you may be facing criminal or legal charges. You have to retain an attorney. Then you're gonna have the trauma effect to it, because now it's like, I just took someone's life. Not only did I just take someone's life, but they had a fake gun. And that's my thing. You have no way of knowing that's a fake gun. And remember when I told you at the beginning, it's like, hey, you just answered a call. And well, you were driving around in this neighborhood, a shots fired call came out, and 2 minutes later, you encounter the suspect. Person's not responding to your directives. You tell him to drop the gun. You tell him to, get on his knees, spread his arms out, or whatever you're trying to do, till somebody gets there. He's not doing anything, just stand there with the gun. And then he slowly starts bringing the gun up and getting ready to face it towards you. What are you going to do? You're going to wait till you start shooting to shoot back? Or do you feel threatened as that gun is coming up? Because I can tell you right now, I know what's getting ready to happen. He's getting ready to start shooting. Now, and it's dark. It's not sunny. It's dark. So you're scanning down, and it looks like a weapon. It looks like a gun. Yeah, that's a gun. So let's just say you do discharge a weapon, and the guy gets hit. He ends up being deceased or whatever. You go up there, it's a black phone. Now what do you do? What is the media going to say? What is his family going to say? 3 to 5 seconds for a split second decision. 3 to 5 seconds. You have that much time to figure out if that's a gun, if it's a phone, if it's just his hand. What if it's a fake gun, but it looks real? But you have no way of knowing that. 3 to 5 seconds for a split-second decision. What are you going to do? Or are you just going to, oh, well, he's okay. Everything's going to be fine. We'll do this. What are you going to do? Do you want to go home? You're going to go home one or two ways. Either you're going to drive home in your personal vehicle, or if this guy does actually have a real weapon and he discharges it and you catch some rounds, maybe the medical examiner will become to take you home. Split-second decisions. So I call them Facebook investigators, so he should have known it was a cell phone. He should have shot his hand and knocked it out of it. He should have shot him in his hand and knocked it out of his hand. He should have shot him in the leg. It's dark. Like I said before, we're trained to shoot center mass to stop the threat. When the threat stops, we stop. You comply with the verbal commands of an officer, boom, it stops. And all this is no, because I already know where that's going to go. Yes, there are some, if you want to call them bad cops or whatever, bad decisions. Yes, that happens. That happens. Now, the policies and the restrictions, are they helping or hurting? And I have to agree. They are helping, because it makes, changes to police policies, the general orders, SOPs, or whatever they do to change their policy. And what I just mentioned a few minutes ago, and then you have the tension between de-escalation and survival. So in most situations, even in a deadly force type situation, unless the person just comes out just straight shooting and you have no other alternative but to return fire, there's going to be that window of a period of de-escalation and survival. So hopefully there is a period of de-escalation where you can, hey, drop the weapon, drop the gun, and then somewhere in there, as you're speaking to them, you hit that human side to them, or you hit that nerve to where they start thinking and say, hey, and I'm talking about the suspect here, hey, let me drop this gun. I don't want to hurt them, and I don't want to get hurt. And so in a realistic or environment, yes, de-escalation is the not alternative, but the thing that we want to do. Because I can tell you right now, I don't go to work thinking, okay, well, who am I going to shoot today? I don't do that. Because my thing was, when I first started working for Dallas, like I said, I no longer work for Dallas, but when I started working for Dallas, I don't know if we were in the academy, but I had either a trainer or somebody or one of the instructors in the academy. They asked me, or they asked us as a group, as a class, however your shift works, if you work 8-hour shifts, 10-hour shifts, or 12-hour shifts, do you want to fight the whole 8-hour shift? I mean, you go from call to call to call, and every call you go into, you're fighting. If you're on a 10-hour shift, every call you go to, you have to fight somebody. The 12-hour shift, every call you have to go to, you have to fight somebody. Do you want to do that, or do you want to de-escalate the situation and say, hey, put your hands behind your back, you're under arrest, this, that, and the other, let's go to jail? But in the deadly force situations where you have a split second, it's either de-escalate and you're also in survival mode. So if that person is presenting a threat to you, then you have to deal with that threat. And trust me, the training is going to kick in. As police officer, that training is definitely going to kick in. And you're going to know, especially if the person has a weapon, gun, if it's fake or whatever, and you pull, you start bringing that weapon up, that's going to be some rounds being discharged downrange. Now, with that being said, with the de-escalation and survival, does the public understand the realities of real time, the threat assessment? I'm going to say yes and no. There are some that do understand the realities of real time and the threat assessment. And then there's some that just absolutely don't. And I'm not just saying that just to be saying it. I see it on social media. a lot of times I don't respond to it, like on Facebook when all these major shootings happen and things of that nature. And I just look at some of the comments. I'm like, man, they have no clue of what they're talking about. And then everybody else just chimes in and thinking that they're right. And I can just tell you they're absolutely wrong. Like I said, it's the movies that they watch, and some of the comments I can tell it's just the movies that they watch. So, um, so with the public understanding the realities of real time, I'm going to say yes and no. I believe some do, some understand the stress that we go through, and the threat assessment that we have to do. And what I mean by threat assessment is, let's just say, like earlier I said, I'm always scanning someone to see what they're doing. And what I mean by scanning, I mean with my eyes. I'm doing a quick scan, and I'm going up. I'm going from head to toe. And if they keep moving, if they keep turning, then I'm going. I'm like, hey, what are you doing? And I'm going to either pat them down, re-pat them down to see if they have any weapons. And 9 times out of 10, they probably have something, and it may not be a weapon. It could be drugs they're trying to hide, get rid of, a drop or something like that. That could be it. But if you're moving, then for me, that's an issue because I don't want it to go south. But if it does, I'm ready for it. But I don't want it to go south. But my thing is, why are you moving like this? So what I mean by scanning is I'm always scanning the hands, what he or she is doing with the hands. Are you reaching for something? Are you trying to do something? Or like say that, like I said in another episode, there's always a gun in play. Officer's gun. Is he trying to lunge to get somebody else's gun and then just start shooting? So I'm always scanning. Not only am I scanning the person that we're dealing with, but I'm scanning my surroundings. And I got that from when I was in the military, because there have been instances where people will just walk up for whatever reason. I have no earthly clue. It could be 5 or 6 officers, and we're dealing with a major situation, and we either have 1 or 2 suspects, and we're trying to get this thing resolved, and people will just walk up. Officer, what's going on? It's like, okay, who are you? 9 times out of 10, I catch them before they get up there, and I was like, hey guys, let me go. Somebody's walking up. Let me go see what they want, and I'll stop them. Say, hey, can I help you? Oh, I just want to know what's going on. Well, I don't know who you are, but we got it. I need you to step back. And then they may say, well, that's my brother. That's my son. Okay, well, I understand that. But right now, we have this going on. I said, I'll do you a solid. If this person's going to jail, if it is your son or whatever, then I'll come let you know, and I'll let you know where you need to go. But right now, I need you to step back. And so you don't know if you're going to get ambushed. Somebody coming up. This is my saying. I don't know what you bring into the party. And this is what I mean by that. If there's 3 to 5 officers, however many, and we have 1 or 2 suspects right here, we have it under control right now. I call that our little party. So now everybody's been patted down for weapons. If there was weapons, we've retrieved them and we have them secured. So now I'm dealing with a somewhat secured situation. I don't know what's from the outside, but right now I'm dealing with a secured situation. But when somebody walks up to our little circle or to our little area, just to be nosy, or, this is whoever, this is my relative, it's like, I don't know what you bring to the party. Now, you hadn't been searched. You hadn't been patted down for weapons. I don't know what you're bringing. You may be the other suspect that we're looking for that we don't have a description of, and you just going to go for broke and just start shooting everybody. So I don't know what you're bringing to the party. So you have to keep that in mind as far as from the public's understanding. So please don't do that. Please don't do that, because that is very dangerous. Now, if it's a relative or something, and I've done that before too, when I've like, hey, can I help you? Why are you coming up here? This, that, and the other. And they said, well, this is such and such relative, or whatever. So I will move them back with me walking with them. I say, hey, let's go over and talk. And I'll talk to them. I'll explain the situation, to a certain degree. Hey, this is what we have. This is what we got going on. Let us work this for a little bit. And if he or she had nothing to do with it, then they're either going to be released or this, that, and the other. And I said, I'll tell you what, once we get to that point, I'll come find you and let you know what's going on. If we're going to release them, or if they're going to jail, or just whatever, or if they're going to headquarters. And then most people that I've encountered when I do that, they feel a little bit more at ease. So I will at least do that once I encounter that person. Now, I've encountered people where they just acted a plumb fool and they just thought that they were just going to come and do what they want. Um, Now, food for thought. This job, the job of policing, it isn't about, I'm not going to say, it's not about enforcing laws. It's about managing chaos. Now, do we enforce laws? Yes. But for the most part, when we get there, we're trying to manage chaos because I'm not going to say everything, but a lot of stuff is chaotic. So basically, we're trying to manage it. And this is what I mean by that. We're trying to manage the chaos to see if we do have a criminal offense or something that we need to deal with as police. I've been on a lot of things where it's chaotic. Then once we get in there, like, calm everybody down, separate people, because 9 times out of 10, you have 3 or 4 different people yelling this, that, and the other. And once we separate them and find out what's going on that chaotic, on the chaos that's going on, we really have no criminal offense. It just might be a disagreement or whatever. And so we're not enforcing any laws. We just manage the chaos that was going on at that particular time. Now, but even in dealing with that chaos, it's not like a timeout for us, because even though it's not a criminal instance right then, I've seen them turn into it. So we have to be a little bit more careful how we comment on some of the law enforcement side of things. Am I saying that police are always right? I am definitely not saying that. But I've seen some instances where some videos I've seen, stuff that happened in the media, I'm like, okay, to me, that's a good shoot. This is a good use of force. This is good. This is okay. Now, okay, no, this is bad. Yeah, he's wrong for that, or she is wrong for that. So I have no issue, no problem with that. But when you're dealing with people that don't know or have not experienced what to do as far as a law enforcement officer, and I can, trust me, I can tell what you're saying. I know it comes from a movie, because that's the only place you can have a response like that, because it's not feasible. It doesn't fit the scenario of what's going on. So I wanted to put that out there, as far as split-second decisions, the use of force when we have only split-second decisions to make, sometimes a life-changing decision. It's not easy. In my instance, the one I dealt with, I'm glad that it turned out the way that it did, because yes, in my mind, I would have been cleared, because this guy actually stuck a real gun out the window and was about to shoot this guy. And if I would have shot him, I would have been cleared, but that would have haunted me for the rest of my life if that guy would have died. The only reason I did not take the shot is because as the car was moving, my sights now became on the rear passenger window, and that's where my threat was not. My threat was at the front passenger window when it rolled down. I didn't know if there was somebody sitting there, but at the time, I didn't know if there was somebody in the back seat. So all that was going through my mind in those few seconds. It's like, if I take this shot, I don't know if there's anybody in the back seat. If I hit the person in the back seat and they become deceased now, because that was not my threat. My threat was in the front passenger seat. And so now, for me personally, that was not a good shoot for me. Now, so that's why I did not take the shot. So luckily, my situation, I didn't have to take the shot. And thank God I didn't, because like I said, that's just something personal for me, is that I would have to live with that, of taking this guy's life, even though I'm justified by law. But, just me personally, that would have bothered me. Even though I'm justified in doing it, that would have bothered me, knowing that I took another human's life. Now, split-second decisions are never perfect. And I think I kind of touched on that before I got to this. Split-second decisions are never perfect. But we owe it to everyone in the community and officers to have these types of conversations. So what I want you guys to do is, if you're watching this video, and you have the opportunity to comment on it, please comment on it. And I will try to, get back to you to return your comment, to respond back. If you think of something that, hey, can you talk about this because I'm not sure about this, or just a topic you want to talk about, put it in the comments on the YouTube or wherever you see in the video. Just make the comment. Something you want me to talk about, please put it on there. If we want to have better outcomes, we have to have a better understanding. And this is what I mean by that. So most of this video, I've been talking about how some people on the civilian side, when they see these videos on TV of shootings and everything just breaks out as far as whether it's a riot or whatever, there's not a clear understanding of what's going on. There's a perceived idea of what you think should have happened, but you don't know that particular agency's policies on how to handle certain situations. Now, I'm quite sure that, and I'm just going to go on a limb here, I'm quite sure that every department has a deadly force encounter type policy, meaning that if someone pulls out a weapon, like I say, 9 times out of 10, that officer's going to discharge his weapon. So there needs to be an understanding on both sides. And if people, and when I say people, what I mean by this, civilians that are responding on social media to certain things that they think in their mind that's right, maybe you should ask somebody, because a lot of stuff that I see is just totally incorrect. And I'm not here trying to sell you a can of goods or anything like that, because I'm also on the side of, if an officer did something wrong, then they need to be held accountable. But on the flip side of that token, if an officer did something right, then, hey, he's justified. He or she is justified in the shooting that he or she did, or whatever use of force deal they came out of. And so if we want the better outcomes, there has to be a better understanding. And I'm not saying that's one-sided. It has to be a better understanding on both sides. And what I mean by that is, I've had viewers ask me about the black on black, well, not the black on black crime, but why blacks are being, I don't want to say targeted, but getting the brunt of the use of force from officers, especially in the deadly force situations. But there has to be a better understanding. How do we do that? On platforms like this. How do we do it a better way in your respective city? Maybe get involved. Maybe there should be some type of town hall type meeting, maybe some type of forum that's a live forum where you have, a certain amount of people on a platform or this forum, and it's just open discussion. But it has to be a two-sided open discussion, meaning that both sides are understanding one another, not just yelling at the police, taking your anger out on them because they shouldn't have done this, they shouldn't have done that. And same on the flip side. As officers, as a department as a whole, we have to understand the community side of it, which, in my personal opinion, I think that's improving. But there has to be a better understanding on both sides. Both have to come together and try to get a better understanding of each party's beliefs and what they think should have happened. But also, like I said, most departments do have a force continuum, and officers know when they can engage in a deadly force situation. And again, it's 3 to 5 seconds to make that decision. 3 to 5 seconds. Next time you're doing something, whether it's at your job, whatever the case may be, you got 3 to 5 seconds to do it. And then you let me know how that outcome came out. It can be a good one. It can be a good outcome. It can be a bad outcome. It can be something that you can learn from and move on to the next one. Or it could be a 3 to 5 second decision that you lose your job. You're no longer employed. You lost your spouse through some type of divorce on a 3 to 5 second decision. So, in closing, let's just get a better understanding. And to the Facebook investigators, if someone is chiming in with you and saying, hey, well, no, this is wrong, or, hopefully they're respectfully saying, hey, well, no, this is, if they're throwing verbiage out there, hey, this, the force continuum or this, and the officers have the, they're 9 times out of 10, they might be in law enforcement. Their profile may not show it, but they may be in law enforcement. Don't have a closed mind. And, maybe it was your friend that met their demise. What was your friend doing? Were they involved in criminal activity? Did they point a gun at the officer? Where the officer had to return fire? Or was the person just sitting on the porch and the officer walked up to him and discharged his weapon? That's a total different story. So let's try to come together on this, get a better understanding. Again, if you have any questions or you make a comment on the video, please do. Try to reach out to you, explain the best way I can, and hopefully we can get this thing better than what it is. I think it definitely is improving. I want to thank you for watching Parks Place Podcast. Hit the like button. Definitely hit the subscribe button. Going to try to have the next video out coming up hopefully within a week or so. Hope you guys enjoying these, chime in on those. Hey, if it's something I need to change or do whatever, hey, I'm in for the feedback right now, because just getting this thing rolling. Thank you for all the views of the videos and the people that have subscribed. I gained some more subscribers over this past week, and that's what I'm going to keep doing. So thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.